so it's only the both of us. All right, hello Albert's List. It is Saturday, early afternoon here in Orange County. I'm here with my buddy Stella. She's a recruiter.
Hey.
And I thought we'd do a Q&A today because it's Saturday. We're relaxing. I'm here in front of the pool at the place that I now live.
Woo!
And unfortunately, it is not Southern California cool because the water is, not the water, but rather the sky is a little bit gray. And yeah, I thought we'd wait for a couple people here and just talk about your first job and also take some Q&A. So if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts on, your job stuff going on here as we head into July and the July 4th weekend, feel free to answer. Not 7 people now, check that out.
Woo!
And so we're going to wait for a little bit more people to arrive. Hopefully we can get started when we're at about 10 folks. Tell me what you're up to this weekend too. The splashing sound you hear is a person who's swimming in the pool right in front of me right now. So this is as chill and relaxed as it gets. So Rick, this is a shirt that a roommate from college gave me for, I believe, the Lost series. So I'm not actually quite sure what it's for. So yeah, also let me know if you can hear me. We're back down to 4 people. So anyways, I'll wait a little bit longer. Hopefully this number goes up. It is Saturday afternoon. I know that all of you are doing your thing here. And I'm also here, unfortunately, with not as much blue sky as I would like to. But
Hey, show them some palm trees.
These are the things. But yeah, I guess I'll show you around while we're at it. Let's see. So, there's some palm trees over here. And Rick, that is good to know. I guess I'm wearing geographically appropriate attire as well. And so, yeah. Okay, all right. So, anyways, back to it. So you obviously all know who I am. I'm Albert, and I'm wearing the most informal clothing right now. Stella, do you want to introduce yourself too?
Hi, I'm Stella.
Anything else?
I'm Stella. I'm a recruiter, and I also am in charge of the blog at findyourpeanutbutter.com. I'm here with Albert today to answer your career questions. So please let us know what kind of questions you have so we can answer them.
And tell us what Find Your Peanut Butter is, because I know you've done a lot of webinars here, and people are wondering what peanut butter has to do with your career search.
Sure. So Find Your Peanut Butter is basically my website that talks about comparing the similarities between finding your career and finding your soulmate. So if you don't realize there's a lot of things that are similar in that process, so I want to show you guys that, I'm assuming that you have experience dating, like from college and stuff. So when you come to find your first job, it's a really similar process where, you're going to a party and you're meeting that, dashing guy or girl. Same with a networking event. Same with going on your first date, which is essentially your first interview. So obviously you can tell there's a lot of similarities, not too much to be nervous about. So that's what I talk about a little bit during your job search.
Interesting. So you're telling me that that relationships and dating, which is a topic we actually talk a lot about over at Albert's Dating Listings and Referrals, is a lot like finding my dream girl is kind of like finding my dream job.
Yes, exactly. It's a very similar process. If you can do one, you will most likely be able to do the other. And when we say find your peanut butter, it means that you want to find the one that sticks.
And so even though a lot of us today are taking multiple jobs, are we then eating multiple kinds of peanut butter because nothing truly sticks anymore?
Yeah, I think that is true. I think especially with online dating these days, it's similar to, a job portal where you're finding multiple jobs. You may be dating different people to see what you're really or who you're really interested in, and who's going to stick to you, because ultimately you want to find the one that you want to, like, let's say, spend your whole life with. I mean, if it's a dream for you to go career hopping, that's a different story. I think you'll have to do that do the same process each and every time. But at the same time, how many of you guys want to, get married and then hope for a divorce in a couple of years and then switch to someone else? Doesn't that just sound like too much work when you can just do it all at once?
Yeah, so I think it's all about finding your purpose and really making sure that it's not necessarily the job that sticks, right, as much as it's the career purpose and the career path that sticks. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, it definitely has to have some significance to it. That's why you're going to make that commitment. And the same in a relationship, you're not going to make a commitment just because someone's going to be there to keep you company. Like, that's not something you want to do. You're not going to want to do something for someone if that's really your only purpose. Then you would probably be bouncing around for more attention somewhere else as well. Which is the same when you're like, bored with your job or something. Then you're going to start looking around to see what else is out there.
So when we switch jobs, are we cheating or are we doing something else?
When you switch jobs, I think you may be cheating. On the other hand, I think you're also you're on the quest to find something better for yourself because you know that.
Okay, well that's interesting. And I know Rick says that I should be a relationship expert, and I am no relationship expert. I leave that to the plenty of dating coaches that hang out in this group and my dating group every day. And, she's got a lot of advice that she can offer you too. We'll post a link to her Amazon book shortly. But, I think the thing that I want to talk about today is, we talk about how this dating thing is kind of like a relationship, right? And how our date is the our interviews are those dates that we go on, and then the relationship is when we start that job. And I want to talk a little bit about what it's like when you finally landed that job and it's your first couple of weeks, you're in that honeymoon phase. Describe that honeymoon phase for us and how people can relate it back to their relationships and set themselves up for success.
Yeah, definitely. So I actually have a bunch of interns starting this past couple of weeks, and they're super excited. Most of the time it's their first internship, and they're very eager. Sometimes I think they might be over-eager. So at that time, they're like, oh, give me work to do. Like, I want to do this, I want to do this. But when it's your first job, you don't have the training wheels yet. Like, it hasn't been taken off yet. So there's still a lot to learn, and there's a lot to be taught. So just in the same way as your first relationship, you get in and you're super excited and, you want to start doing this and that. But you need to figure out the job, the person first, and figure out how they work so you can best work together. So, before you really start getting into the meat of the work, which is, doing this stuff together and finding that common ground, you need to take a step back to find out what that common ground is and how you're going to work together and what's the supplemental information you need to make it work.
So, when it comes to that then, I'm curious because when you're in the interview process and when you're on a date here, you learn a lot about your employer, you learn a lot about the people that you're interviewing with, and for those of those folks who just joined, please leave any questions that you have in the comments below, because I definitely want to hear what your thoughts are on this with regards to dating and working. We're kind of doing a hybrid thing today. When you go on your dates, you learn a lot about the man or the woman that you're dating and what their likes are and their red flags and their whole thing. And you do similar things in the interview. What is it that you need to figure out after the interview process, after the yes, I'll be your significant other conversation that's new to this that we need to learn about? Because frankly, I don't really know how to answer this question in both career lights. I'm pretty lost here.
Yeah, I think you just got to start figuring out the rest of your life. I'm just kidding.
So we're getting married like right after we get right after we figure out that we want somebody to be our significant other. We're going ring shopping, right?
Yeah, that's ideal. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, I think that at this time, this is when you just cut off. When you figure out the surface level, you need to go in deeper. Okay. So this is more like, okay, well, if something happens, like let's say to their family or to their job or whatever it is, how are you guys going to figure it out and how are you guys going to do it together? So you can tell this is the deeper things. When it's at work, it's more like, okay, I learned the basis of this. What am I going to do to strategize or to help out my manager or my coworkers to see what is it that I can give and what is it that I can input in a deeper level versus like, okay, here, I did my work, I'm done, I'm leaving.
Okay.
So it's really that commitment now that you're giving, and when you look at it, it's not just you anymore, it's not just you learning anymore, it's you learning together, you doing things together.
And so tell me how this works professionally, where it sounds like I heard a lot of together, but what do you mean more so by in the professional together? What does that look like?
Yeah, so obviously I think a lot of you guys work in a team, so it's not just you anymore, it's not just you, okay, I'm going to do this project, but how can I collaborate with my team members? How can I collaborate with other team members, to make this the best, let's say you're working on a project, the best project that it is. Where is it that we can get new ideas? Where is it that we can collaborate? So when we, let's say, present it to someone or give a new idea, that it's taken seriously and that everyone's on board. And I think that's the key thing is like when you work together, everyone has to be on board versus like, oh, I think this one thing, I'm going to do this myself.
Does that include going with your coworkers to lunch and happy hour?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that...
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Happy hours are fun. Be careful. I actually went to a Dodgers game with my coworkers the other day, and let's just say it was a lot of fun. But you definitely want to be careful because, as much as you have a personal life, you also want to maintain that professionalism as well. But I also think that is really important. You do not, I'm not saying you don't, but when you're at work, you definitely want to get to know your coworkers, not just on the surface level, like, hey, how's that project going, blah, blah, blah. But, how's your weekend going? Like, how are your kids? How was your birthday? Get to know them on a deeper level so there's more substance versus just like, Albert just talks about work all the time. Like, that's all I can talk to him about because there's more dimension to you than just work. Of course, when you do that, there's a time where you don't get too personal, especially like, let's say if it's with your manager or someone. And I would say that's the same way with your relationships where sometimes when you're bitching about work the whole time, that could, rub your significant other the wrong way, especially if, like, let's say they're in a different field and they don't really understand. That's something that you can talk to someone else about. So you have to be careful.
So tell us about the importance of presence and showing up. And yes, I do talk about work all the time. It is kind of a problem because I live Albert's List every day and maybe a little much. But tell us about the importance of showing up and kind of, the working do's and don'ts. Because I know for a fact that a lot of people tend to overshare their life. It's become a problem across everything when it comes to social media these days. I see too many of people's kids, of their families, of what they're doing to work out and lose weight. And so when you're talking with your coworkers, what do you say and what do you don't say, and how do you ensure that you're still present at the same time?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I was actually going to say that...
What is TMI?
TMI. My number one thing is that if you're with your coworker, you're with your significant other, be present. So what does that mean? It means shut off your freaking phone, shut off your laptop, and actually listen. And people will know when you're listening when you like repeat it back or, when you ask additional questions. That's when you're attentively listening versus being on your phone halfway and, trying to listen while you're scrolling through your Facebook at the same time. Obviously it shows that you're distracted. So I would say that's definitely my number one. And then in terms of oversharing, I would say like, there's definitely people that you feel comfortable with sharing more to. You're not going to share, your private life with your manager or someone because that's not professional. It may be something that you share with a coworker, but I think that's also a line that you have to think about if you want to cross. Like, let's say if you know them prior to your job. maybe that would be a good person to talk to. However, if you just met these people and you're telling them about like your private life or your relationships or whatever it is, and you're getting way too deep and it's making people feel uncomfortable, that's definitely a time to just cut it off.
So if you broke up with your significant other over the weekend, do you...
Hey, knocking on wood.
Knocking on wood, yeah, because we're talking about relationships here too. But I guess we're just gonna go ahead and merge the two together. If you and your significant other broke up over the weekend and you walk into Monday a crying, blubbering mess, and you still have reports to do, emails to write, content to create if you're in marketing, or Excel spreadsheets to analyze, how do you bridge and walk between those two and make sure you don't break down in the coffee room? I'm really curious about that because I've seen some people do it. I try to stay as neutral and emotionless as possible, but some people just can't. So what do you do?
That's a good question. That's probably what I'm trying to figure out too. But I think in that case, that's honest. Like take a couple days for yourself. Like it's gonna take a little bit to like set in and hit you, and like it might just hit you with a ton of bricks. But it's definitely not an easy process. So I would say this is definitely what PTO is for. That's why you have those float days. That's why you have those PTO. Take some time for yourself, gather your thoughts, get a really good support network going. And then, I would actually give your manager, your boss, whoever it is, a heads up, just like, hey, I had something going on this weekend. Like it's, I'm not feeling that well. So if it's okay with you, it might take a couple moments to like step out a little bit or something because I'm dealing with something. I think as long as you give someone that heads up, they're not going to be like, okay, why is she not answering her emails? Why is she like taking so long on doing this? But at the same time, you don't have to share like, oh my gosh, my boyfriend broke up with me. I'm going to go cry in the corner and blah, blah, blah.
Josh says, cry on my shoulder. He's good for it. I listen to people talk all day long. So if you need that, feel free.
Yeah. So I think that's a good time to, let a couple people you're close with know that like you're going through a rough time and maybe like you need to talk, but I would just, definitely keep it professional. If you feel like you're going to break down, step outside, go to the bathroom, whatever it is. Like Albert say, I would, it's hard to stay emotionless. If you can do that, good for you and try for it. But at the same time, we know that it ain't easy. So just make sure you're taking care of yourself first, but also give yourself time to heal.
Sounds good. So we're talking about a lot about relationship stuff today. I think that what we can probably go in additionally is probably to talk about the other aspects of starting your first job too. So I know a lot of people when they first start their first job, and we're here live actually for those of you who are joining. I see we're up to 11. We were up to 14 earlier. We're right in front of the pool at the place that I currently live. There are palm trees everywhere. Unfortunately, it is a cloudy day today, and it's the 1st of July. But don't let that stop you from coming to Southern California, because we still got Disneyland, we still got beaches, we got July 4th, we got the water, we got, good-looking men and women walking the beaches every single day who look really fit. So come on down, and we got this good-looking recruiter to us too. That's the last I'll do of any flirting here. But what I'm saying is, we're here on the first day of work now, and not only have we, I guess, figured out now how we want to be socially at the happy hour later, but let's talk about the other stuff, right? The more boring stuff, but the stuff that's really important. Cover things like the HR handbook, how you maybe think about promotions, the first 90 days as a new grad, and how those things matter.
Geez, that's a loaded question.
It really is. And I'm asking it because no one else is going to ask it. Employee
handbook, I know it's long. I know it's like probably this thick, but definitely read
Show
it.
them how thick?
Like this.
Yes.
I had to sign a stack of paperwork like this thick one time.
My goodness.
I was sitting there for like half a day. Anyways, so definitely read it. Yeah, I would say definitely read it. That's something you can definitely be doing on your downtime. Like let's say there's training and there's some downtime and you don't have anything to do. read your employee handbook, there's a lot of information in there that you think you know or that you probably don't. And there's a lot of, like, let's say things that you don't know that could be of benefit to you. So, like, let's say your company offers a stipend for the gym or something. They're not going to automatically tell you that, especially when it's like hidden in your benefits. So I would say read through all of it. It is dense, but just take your time. But I feel like it's very, very useful and helpful, especially when you have questions about certain things. So, what was the next question?
I think the next question I was talking about might have been like HR policy, might have also included things like figuring out your first 90 days, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
How does a new grad think about getting promoted so early?
So, actually, for my job, I feel like my manager knows I want to get promoted even before I got hired. And I think when you do want to get promoted and you have that, you have that drive, definitely let whoever your supervisor is know so that they can keep that in mind. My supervisor keeps that in mind and gives me stuff that, the next level would do. Another thing you can do is that you make your boss's life easier. So if you can help take on any additional projects, or if you have any suggestions, or whatever it is that you can take off their hands, ask them and be like, hey, let me help you with this, and then do a kick-ass job so they will see that you are fit for a job. So a lot of times, to prove that you can or you should be getting promoted is when you're already doing the, let's say you're a staff, you're doing the senior's job already.
What about PTO for the new grad? As people who get jobs for the first time, you realize there's no more summer vacation. There's no more random Friday staff development days. There's no more half days unless it's before a holiday. Unlike all the college kids who are out prancing and trancing around the world right now, doing their thing on summer vacation, going to Miami, hanging by the beach, when you become a professional, you unfortunately got to be somewhere at 8 a.m. sometimes Monday through Friday. If you work in tech, maybe you alter those hours a little bit because things are flexible and they charge you by value rather than anything else. But, now that you have that job, you can see those PTO days, and how the heck do you handle that as somebody who's getting a job for the first time?
Yeah, definitely. Well, don't spend them all in one place. Just kidding. But I would say the great thing about working versus being in school is now, if you do have let's say a traditional 9-to-5 job, you will get off at 5 and you don't work afterwards. You have that spare time from when you get home to when you sleep. So that's very valuable time that you could be doing something, let's say, productive with. Or if you don't need to be productive that day, make sure you take a break and just relax so you're recharged for the next day. Because you don't have to do homework. That's the same that goes for weekends. Take advantage of those weekends and don't go, crazy all the time, because obviously you're not in college anymore, but don't go crazy all the time so then when you're back to work on Monday, you're well rested. In terms of your PTO days, use that wisely. I would say, if you have vacation ahead of time before you get this job, make sure you let someone know so that you can use your vacation time, but know that you don't have that PTO already accrued, so you will be losing money. So, use it as you wish. Use it if you need to take a sick day, because you're not going to just be able to miss class and make up for it anymore. You actually have real work to do. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And then also, how about health benefits for the new graduate as well?
Yes, get it. I would say usually a lot of companies, and this is where the handbook really comes in handy, is it explains which health benefits you get and which plans, so you can help get the best one for you. Because for most new grads, you're pretty healthy, so you don't have to pay this huge sum of money for this expensive plan. For some people that might have more medical issues, you might want to look into a more, plan that benefits you. if you don't look in your handbook, I mean, this is something that you can definitely ask your HR. But I mean, if you don't get health care, that's a complete loss because for a lot of companies, it is provided at a discounted price.
Good stuff, good stuff. And then how about retirement? So there's this 4-letter combination and then this other 3-letter combination that all new grads are going to hear at some point. One of them is 401k and the other one is IRA. Should we just spend our whole entire first paycheck on that thing we've always wanted, or should we do something else with that?
What's the thing you always wanted?
I've been eyeing that really, really fancy MacBook Pro laptop for a long time.
No, I thought you were going to say you wanted that Porsche, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could put that down payment on that Porsche too, and lease a car if that goes a while. We can do that too. How about that? And then we'll go to the question that's just been posed here.
So 401k is very important. Like, you should definitely start out when you're young. I wish I started out when I graduated, because the way it works in the basic sense is it just accumulates each year. So the more years you have to accumulate, the more money you have. So even if it's just, let's say you can only afford like $20 because you got all those student loans, make sure to put at least something in there, especially if your employer matches. That's basically free money for you. That's just accumulating in your bank account. And when you think about it, your 401k is a savings account. It's just a longer savings where you can't take out the money until you're like 65. But that's just the government help you saving up anyways. But really think about your finances. Like, when you graduate, you might be like moving out and you might be getting your first apartment, or you might be paying off the student loans, or you finally have to get that car instead of relying on your parents or something. So really think about what you can afford to put in, but obviously the more you put in, the better. But at the same time, I know that with college graduates, a lot of you guys also want to travel, like we both want to. So make sure you put yourself on a budget so that you can save up for that trip, but also so you're not broke at the same time. So Albert and I were actually just talking about buying a house, which one day I will, which Albert just did. So see what your goals are and see what you need to set aside to plan for it, because let's say you put all your money into a 401 plan, you're not going to be able to take it out. I mean, you can, but not without a penalty. So think about what you want to achieve, and at least put something in there. That's the whole point.
Sounds good. And just for those of you who are joining, who have been here a while, Stella is a recruiter. She knows everything about recruiting, HR, and everything of that sort. So if you have any questions that you've been burning to ask a recruiter, that have been burning in your mind, please leave a comment in the comment section below, and we'll go through them as we go. Otherwise, it'll just be a one-on-one discussion here with me asking the questions that I think a lot of you have. So, yes. So Phil asks, "Hi Albert, can you ask Stella about the art of negotiating benefits within a company? So if I wanted double PTO, what do I do?"
So that's a good question, and I'm going to tell you, I don't really know. What do you mean by negotiating benefits? Like, would it be PTO, or would it be like flexibility on working from home, or what's the specific in that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it's like, if you're normally given 2 weeks of PTO a year, but instead of taking that extra week of PTO, what if you could instead exchange that for a $10,000 raise? What would that look like?
That's a good question. I would say a lot of company policies are already set, so that would be hard to negotiate. I think you can, because those are it's company-wide, it's not per individual. What I would be negotiating on is, like, let's say a bonus, because that's individual to each person, or I would negotiate like a flexible schedule, just like if you were working in the government. Like, let's say you work for 4 days a week for 10 hours, and then you get that Friday off. whatever it is. But at the same time, when you negotiate, you also want to think about like, okay, what is it that I can contribute? Like, why do I deserve an extra week of PTO? Especially when it is your first job, think about how much experience you have and what is it that you have to offer before you negotiate that. So I think that's first things first.
Good stuff, good stuff. So let's see, what else can I think of when it comes to your first job? Yes, performance plans and expectations and goals. So, for the most of our lives, I think we're held to a grade, A, B, C, D, F, and percentages. But it doesn't really quite work like that anymore in the real world. Tell us a little bit more about what people can expect in their first job when it comes to those kinds of things. Performance plans, goals, things of that sort.
Yeah, so I'm hoping you guys have like a good manager, because they're the ones that are supposed to be proactive in helping you with that. I think it's two ways, and I think it's just for a job and also for a relationship that everything surrounds communication. So when you guys start your new job, you really want to talk to whoever is supervising you about what is expected of you, and even make your own goals for yourself, whether it's quarterly, monthly, however your job is laid out, so that you can keep track of it. That will also help with the last question we asked about promotions. When you can see that you're either like on track or exceeding your goals, that's the time when you can look at it and be like, look, I'm exceeding my goals. I think it may be time for a promotion. But with that said, you have to be accountable for them, and you have to set it yourself with an agreement with your supervisor and your manager. So definitely take the time to do it. And if they don't do it, one of my jobs didn't do it, I just made my own goals and I presented it to my boss.
So being a go-getter sounds like it helps out really, really, really well.
Definitely have to be proactive.
Definitely. So we're here with Stella. She is a campus recruiter. Recruiter should be the key word for all of you here who are looking to speak to recruiters all day in my group and want me to tag folks. And so, yeah, if you have any burning questions that you've been dying to ask, happy to provide this form. We've been going now for, I would say, almost 33 minutes now. So
wow.
We can talk a lot about what new grads can do. I can sit here and do this all day, except my phone has a battery limit. So if any of you have any questions, and there's 7 of you here flipping between really 5 and 14 today, do you have any questions that you want to ask, anything that you're wondering about? Because it's very rare that I get to see Stella. She lives all the way out in LA, and I live all the way out in Orange County, which means that I got to brave. Well, it's true. I got to brave the 405.
That is true.
That is a challenge. I got to drive through Long Beach. I got to, fight those folks who want to go to Huntington Beach. I got to fight the folks who want to go to LAX. I got to fight the folks who want to go to West LA and eat their food. I got to fight La Cienega. It's an endless battle of just roads upon roads upon roads. And, that's why we pay high taxes, because we just got to figure out how to, drive through all that muck every day. So yeah, I guess that's, here's another good one. I got another question that's just come up that I think you could talk about too. So, we talk about finding your peanut butter, we could talk about dating, we talk about relationships, and we compare that out to your first job. So talk a little bit about what your thoughts are when it comes to office dating and office relationships and office romance. Tell me a little bit about that, since that's kind of the merging of both of them too.
Man, good question. I would say at your own discretion. Obviously, if your company is very small, I would advise against it. I would definitely advise against relationships with higher ups. So if, let's say your staff, anyone above you is basically off limits. I see some hearts.
So we can't sleep our way to the top?
Unless you want to get sued one day. But, I would say most relationships do come out of offices, which is honestly where you spend most of your time. If you feel, if you're, I guess I want to say emotionally stable to keep your private life and your professional life separate. I don't necessarily see a whole big of a deal dating someone, like, let's say, in a different department, or someone within the same, what do you call it, like the same level as you. The main thing about office relationships would just be like to be careful not to spill too much dirty details or your dirty laundry out to your coworkers.
Be discreet.
Definitely, because at the end of the day, it's your own private life, and you don't want that to be the topic of discussion, especially if, like, let's say there's a meeting going on and you're like talking about it before a meeting, and then your boss comes in and is like, hey, what's everyone talk about? Oh, just what they did last night, blah blah blah. So you want to keep that outside of work. You don't want anyone overhearing you either. Just keep it professional, because that's what you're there to do when you're at work, is to keep things professional and to do your job.
Good stuff. What does Still ask? What are the questions that you really appreciated from potential candidates that look to figure out their fit? So if you're a candidate and you want that job and you're right in front of a recruiter, how do you get past that iron gate that we've set up? How do we make your heart melt, Stella, so that you pass us on to the next round?
Definitely. So my number one thing is, like, ask genuine questions. Like, I can tell when you are fake, when you're like, hey, can you tell me about this? Or, like, I saw this on your website and I'm curious about this. And then I'm like, that's not even related to your job. Like, you just wanted to ask it to sound smart. So ask genuine questions, especially if you are really trying to find a good fit. Like, for example, you can say, like, at my last company, or like at my current company, I don't feel like I'm being supportive from my managers. Like, how is your managers and your team's function? So when you can supplement something with a personal story, we can make the connection to see why you're asking something. Because a lot of people are like, oh, what's your culture like? But it's like, okay, well, I can tell you so many things about my culture, but what is it that's pertinent to you, and what is it that you want to hear? Because whatever you want to hear, I want to either align with it or tell you, like, okay, well, we don't do things this way. That's probably not a good fit. So really ask questions that are genuine, that you have something to back it up with, so that I can feel that connection with you.
So for the people who are wondering here, is there a script?
No way. There's such thing to be over-prepared. I can tell when you're fake. I can tell when you're over-rehearsed. Definitely be prepared in the sense that, like, have some stories to tell, but just really let the conversation flow. If you want to ask a question in between, ask it in between. Albert's like turning blue. He's about to cough. You have a question? But if you have a question, ask it. Have a genuine conversation. Like the last thing and this differs from every firm, like a law firm is more professional. But a tech company is more casual. So really figure out, like, what type of interview you're going through, and have that conversation versus, like, hey, I have this prepared answer for you, so I'm going to tell you now. I can see right through you, and that just does not make the conversation fun, because when an interview is 30 minutes, when it's an hour, and you're doing it all the time, it gets really monotonous. So bring your story and bring who you are. And that's going to make it more interesting and make it more propelling.
So I've discovered this with some people that they've never done any of these kinds of things in the first place. And I like to describe what you just described with regards to sounding genuine, finding a job, as for some people a song and dance. It's inauthentic to them because they haven't practiced enough and they haven't done it enough. And so, that's why we share messaging templates in the group. That's why we give people tips and tricks on how to follow up. Because there is a little bit of structure involved in this, but there's also a little bit of, I'm doing this because this serves my purpose and my needs and my interests. Where do you draw the line between the two of those? And for the people who need that script, how do they turn themselves into a hybrid that's like, yeah, I can use the script, but I also know what I want, and this is why I'm here.
Good question. I would say, like, yeah, there is a script. So with the job search process, it could be like I could probably lay out the steps for you. It is pretty laid out to where you can follow the process and usually get a job. Where it comes in is usually the you part and the you being genuine. And what Albert said about being genuine, and that's just really being comfortable with the person. And the key really is to practice. So like, when you're doing a presentation, you'll do it over and over because you're rehearsing it so you can say things on point, so you remember everything to say. Once you remember it enough and once you say it so many times, it's going to come more naturally to you versus like, oh, I can see them thinking. It's not coming naturally. They're just doing a script. Where when you know what you're already going to say and you've practiced enough, it usually just comes naturally. So then we can see that you're genuinely having a conversation. Does that make sense? So for that, that's why I'm a full believer in mock interviews. So like, if you guys are still in school, definitely take full advantage of your career services programs because they offer mock interviews. Mine did a video, and then they taped me, and then they gave me feedback. And honestly, after that, I was pretty good to go because there's some things I couldn't figure out, like, why am I not getting this job? What am I saying wrong? Until a professional gives you a feedback. On the other hand, if you're a professional, hi, I do mock interviews, so hire me. But I think that's just the biggest key. If you're not going to do it with someone, practice with yourself in the mirror. The one thing is, don't practice in your head because it's a lot different than what comes out of your mouth. So even if you don't have anyone, practice while you're doing your makeup, or when you're in front of a mirror, or you have a couple minutes to spare. Just ask yourself a question in your head and then just answer it verbally, because a lot of times you're going to find like, okay, well, that's not matching up with what I'm thinking.
Makes sense. So we are now 40 minutes into this. We haven't gotten that many questions. If you have a question, please ask. We're taking your burning questions, and we're talking about how to handle your first job, especially for those of you new grads who are watching now or later. And Stella can answer these questions later if you're still interested. But we're live now. We're here by the pool at the place that I now currently live. I thought maybe, go ahead and show everyone a little bit of the sights and sounds again. There's some palm trees. It's unfortunately a very cloudy day today, but it looks nice out here. So we're just answering questions because I know it's the first Saturday of July. We are well into summer now. It doesn't feel like summer right now at one bit. And we're answering questions about your first job, your first internship, the whole entire HR process, everything that we got to figure out all at once going on. So I think we're hitting the end here unless anyone wants to ask any questions, unless you have any other thoughts that you didn't think we covered yet.
I would say just with the job search process, just like with any relationship, just be patient. You will find something that's a good fit. If, like, let's say you don't get an offer from a company, you really, really, really want it, you're just going to find something else better after, because then you're both in alignment and agreement. Just be patient with the process because it does take time. Not everything's going to be like, given to you, or just because you put so much work into one thing doesn't mean it's going to necessarily be yours. You'll find it. Just, be proactive. Don't give up either. Take breaks, but don't give up. That's the biggest thing about the job search is, like, let's say you're just like shooting out 90 emails each day for a job search. You're going to all these networking events. Like, you can get burnt out. So don't forget to take breaks, but also be motivated to keep going afterwards as well, because it's not easy. I can tell you that. I'm not gonna lie, it ain't easy. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be worth it. And then if you don't get a job, you may want to reassess okay, what am I doing? Am I only sending it out online? Am I talking to the wrong people? Am I like not doing this? Am I not doing that? You know, there's more things to job search than just, you know, than just one thing. Same that goes for relationships. If all you're doing is going online and you haven't asked your friends yet, you haven't gone to a singles mixer, or what else do people do? Like those speed datings and stuff. You know, consider something else, because that's probably what you're missing.
It's a combination of just about everything, huh?
Yep, you gotta do it all.
Cool. So now that we're at the end, if you enjoyed hearing what Stella said, actually, you know what? Why don't you tell everybody how to get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Sure, you can definitely check out my website, www.findyourpeanutbutter.com, or you can email me, stella@findyourpeanutbutter.com, or you can find me on Albert's group. Albert's List group.
Yes.
You can also find my book on Amazon. You can type in Find Your Peanut Butter, or you can type in Stella Yuen. You can find it that way. Hopefully I shared some good tips with you guys. Feel free to reach out with any remaining questions or any additional questions. Be more than happy to help you out and answer anything that you might have.
And while we're here, do you take LinkedIn connections too?
Yes, I do. I'm actually very active on LinkedIn, so feel free to message me on there as well. Just make sure you introduce yourself from Albert's List so I know where you're from.
Context keeps it good, so there you go. Any final words from you today?
Have a great 4th of July weekend, and I hope you guys get Monday off so you can enjoy that too.
Yeah, don't blow off any fingers. Anyways, we're going to get back here to just enjoying ourselves under the non-existent sun. And if you have any questions after the fact, include them. And we'll talk to you all soon. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll come back here with a message for you all either on Monday or Tuesday. Thank you for tuning in. See ya.